Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, where we interview location-independent entrepreneurs that travel the world like a boss by being their own boss. Here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey everyone, this is Johnny, and welcome to episode 204 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I have a really special episode today. I am in Odessa, Ukraine, and I am talking to Jennifer Teie. Is that how you say it?
You got it.
Okay. Jennifer Teie, where are you right now?
Hey, I'm in California.
Oh, cool. What part?
Northern California, between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe, in a little tiny town where it was close to the gold discovery. It's called Placerville.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'm from San Francisco, but I haven't been there.
Yeah, not many people have.
Well, so the reason why I wanted to have you on the show is, so I think we met at a Date with Destiny in Palm Beach. Do you remember this at all?
We may have, back in December, yes.
Yeah. So we became friends on Facebook, and every once in a while I'll see, people post things, and usually on Facebook people are posting, kind of random fun things, cat videos, baby pictures. And last week I saw you post something really insightful. You had talked about your experience with joining the Platinum Partnership with Tony Robbins and everything that you got from it and learned from it. And I could tell it really came from the heart. You really took your time to want to share this with, your personal friends on Facebook.
Yes.
So I really wanted to talk to you about that. But actually, before we even jump into that, can you tell me a little about Jennifer? How did you grow up? How did you even get into the normal, the entry level Tony Robbins events? And then we'll talk a little bit more about the advanced stuff later.
Sure. How did my world collide with Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
Well, I like I said, I live in a small town. I grew up in this area. I really haven't lived anywhere other than California and Northern California, and really have only lived outside of my small little county for a few years when I was younger and, 19 years old, and bought my first home just a couple hours away, and then ended up settling back in the same county where I pretty much grew up and have lived here almost all my life. So I haven't traveled outside of my circle very much until recently. And I'm in real estate by trade. That's what I do to pay the bills. And I also produce a music festival and music events, and that's what really my pastime and passion. And then I'm in the process of developing a property that's an eco resort on the river in Northern California that will also have a music venue and restaurant, lodging, glamping, all sorts of things. So I've been quite busy, and this has all come to fruition, really been put on fast forward since I've joined the Tony Robbins world.
That's awesome.
And I think it all started really with reading John Maxwell books and, searching online for other John Maxwell, other motivational and inspirational type of readings, and I just have been filling my cup up devouring books for about the last 5 years. I got back into reading and have been on this path of, I would say, self-discovery and really what my mission is in life. Okay. And what my overall purpose is. So
some of the more popular John Maxwell books would be things like the 21 Irresistible Laws of Leadership. What were some of the books that you read of his that really kind of got you hooked?
Oh gosh, I would have to even go back and look. I have a huge pile of books. I have the one you mentioned, the I had the 15 Invaluable Laws, and I think that led to another one, which I don't have in front of me and can't recall right now, which led to the Tony Robbins books, and there were a lot in between. Honestly, there was. I could go down to my library and just start naming off all sorts of books that I've read.
So with Tony Robbins books, were you reading his old books like Awaken the Power Within or
Yes.
Awaken the Giant Within?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And that led to searching UPW, and I think UPW started popping up in my feed after I had ordered that book. And our journey started with UPW. My husband and I went in March of 2017.
So just to clarify for everyone who's listening, well, I guess two things. First is a lot of people listening, they assume, oh, she's from California. She's, from some big surf town, big city girl. But it's not like that at all, right?
Nope, small town with, one little main street, and we're really just a blip between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe.
Wow. So for me, I know exactly what that is because I grew up there, and I kind of just knew that even just driving up to Sacramento, there just wasn't that much happening. And then past that,
right,
like it's really it's a whole new world. And I really think that people that don't grow up in California, they just kind of assume all of California is this magical place that you see on TV.
Right. Right. We are definitely in the foothills, below the snow line, a little town, up and coming as far as our demographics and whatnot. We have a lot of people that move from the San Francisco Bay Area into our area and into our county, and it's kind of a retreat now from the Bay Area and from the busyness in that geographic area, and people don't really stop necessarily except for to maybe have lunch on Main Street or to walk around and look at the antique shops, and it's like a one-horse town.
Wow,
and then off
nice.
they go to Lake Tahoe.
Okay. So you had a normal life kind of growing up, small town.
Yeah, for sure.
So you had mentioned UPW earlier. So for those who don't know, that's Unleash the Power Within. It's Tony Robbins, I would say his entry-level in-person event.
Yeah, it's the training wheels, yes.
So funny thing is, I actually have never been to UPW. I skipped it and went straight to Date with Destiny.
Wow.
And I
bet that was intense.
It was very intense. And the reason why I did it is I live most of the year in Thailand and in kind of just traveling abroad. And it just didn't really make sense for me to fly back for, a 4-day event. And I know that he has a couple of events in places like Singapore or London. But to be honest, even though it would have been much easier for me to go to even Date with Destiny in like Australia, for example, it was closer for me. The tickets were cheaper. The reason why I really wanted to go to the one in the US, and I flew literally from Thailand to the US and then back to Thailand just to go, was because I felt like I needed to be in a room of mostly Americans to be able to even have a chance of him understanding me or me understanding other people's, situations. I think now that I've actually been through one, I actually think that people kind of worldwide are pretty similar, especially because there's so many people from other countries anyways. But I think for me, it was really important for me to just kind of go to the first one in my home country.
Right. I know I could see that. And I also agree with you. The more we get into it and the more you learn that there really is a division around the world. And it's really psychology is what Tony deals with. And people are people, and he deals with the human experience, especially at Date with Destiny.
Okay. So you were reading a couple of self-help books. You found Tony Robbins books. You saw that he had an event coming up. What made you decide to just fork over the money and attend one of these events?
It felt like the next step, I guess. I think I was curious as to what was, what's just the process. It wasn't necessarily the self-help aspect of things. And I think that I hear a lot of people say, oh yeah, Tony Robbins, the inspirational guy, he's the self-help guru. And I'm like, not really. He's going to kick your ass, quite honestly, and you're going to find out a whole lot about yourself that maybe you didn't know, and you're going to get down to your deep core values of what drives you. That, to me, is not self-help. It's almost painful. Painful at times. It's torturous.
Yeah. So can I ask, what did you want to get out of that first event? What were you looking for?
I don't know if I can put my finger on what I wanted to get out of UPW. I do know that prior to that, I was doing a lot of journaling, a lot of reading, and started meditation. And there have just been a lot of, I would say, inspirations coming towards me. And Tony always says, life happens for you. And it really, that resonated. And it has been. And it's been, I get emotional thinking about it because it felt like it came out of left field, these concepts and ideas and inspirations, and I would just journal and write. I would just keep writing, and it started formulating into something that took me down the path of I need to learn how to take control of this, and I need to learn how to do something with this. And with Tony, it was more of the business side of things for me. not that UPW is really slanted towards business, but our very next event that my husband and I signed up for was Business Mastery.
Oh,
so
okay.
it was really the business aspect of things, not the emotional, part of self-help part of it. I saw something in Tony where he uses processes and procedures to help you navigate through the business world and take yourself and your mission to the next level.
Yeah, that's great. And what I really like about Tony Robbins is, even though people go in or go to him for different reasons, whether it's business, self-help, relationships, it almost always ends up, everything ends up being related somehow.
Of course.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I think that's kind of the most kind of powerful part of it, is we might go in thinking, oh, this is going to be great, for me to figure out how to make more money. And then we get there and we realize, oh, you know what? We could have been making more money already if we had figured out this other part of our life. Right.
If you tweak this one aspect 2 millimeters, it changes everything.
Yeah, definitely. So I haven't yet been to a UPW event. I plan to go to one. It's a 3.5-day event. They're the cheapest, I guess, out of the ones. And I think when people start hearing the prices, a lot of people just get scared off because they sound a bit ridiculous for an event that doesn't feed you, that doesn't include the hotel, that is in a room of tens of thousands of people sometimes. But obviously, what happens is, I don't know what percentage, but it seems like a big percentage of people that go come back, or they go to the next event, and they, so we're definitely getting something out of it.
Right. And I'm curious with that, because most of the people walk away. They walk in not knowing what they're walking into and walk away with just an amazing experience, some sort of epiphany or an interest in pursuing more. My 20-year-old daughter just went with my husband to Chicago UPW earlier this month, and it was her first introduction, and she literally has been using the word cult prior to, and kind of flippantly. She uses that word flippantly afterwards, but she called me the other day and said, Mom, you're going to think this is crazy, but it's such a Tony Robbins thing. And I realized that with me, we had traveled to France together between Business Mastery 2 and Life and Wealth in Florida. So we did some traveling in between. She said, I journaled when we were in France, and I had said, I feel lost, and I feel that I'm not living life with passion. And this was before she was introduced to Tony Robbins or the event. Mm-hmm. And she called me just the other day and said, Mom, this is crazy, but I realized that I wrote this in my journal about a month ago, and since then, I've been baking, I've been cooking. These are things that I love, and I just ran a half marathon, and I thought I could never do that. So, wow. Something's changing.
Yeah, I love it. I think the biggest benefit of, and the reason why people should start with UPW is kind of that kickstart of, just kind of kicking yourself in the butt, or letting someone kick you in the butt and say, there's more to life, that whatever you're feeling right now, especially if someone's not feeling 100%, they're not, loving life, they're not living passionately, that there is more, and right. It kind of gives you a taste of it. And part of it, is honestly being in a room of 10,000 people who, whether they started, that or not, by the end of it, everybody's feeling that passion and that energy being surrounded, in that room. And if anything else, you kind of, it allows you, it almost feels like it gives you an excuse, or it gives you permission to just let loose, to really just be in your body, and
and
there's
little, very true.
Yeah. And I think the only thing that would have been really awkward for me if somebody went straight to Date with Destiny like I did, is right away people are dancing, people are just in their body and moving, and it's awkward. It's really awkward for someone, because this you don't do that in normal life.
Well, let me tell you, it's awkward at Date with Destiny too. My husband and I sat in the nosebleeds way up top at our first UPW, and it was weird. We are deadheads through and through, and if your listeners don't know what that is, or you don't know what it is, it's an entire culture with the Grateful Dead, and it's jam band music, and it's definitely not the top 40 club music that Tony plays at his events, and it gets everyone up excited and dancing. And my husband and I are looking at each other going, this is weird.
Yeah.
This is awkward. But I think that the one thing that Tony is a master of, and he just hands down, is he's a master of creating uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And that plays through with his events. You're going to be uncomfortable, whether it's freezing your butt off at Date with Destiny or you're getting up and dancing to music that's not really your thing, but you're feeling the energy and you're feeling like, what the hell? You know, everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to see what this is all about.
Yeah.
And now, you know, fast forward a year later, I said, oh my gosh, I would never step foot in the club again. And you know, I only listen to the Dead. And, oh my gosh, I danced until the sun rose in France with the adventure trip and danced to music I haven't danced to in 20 years. You know, and had a fantastic time.
Honestly, I feel like it's a bit sad that in normal life we don't have that many opportunities to dance. I mean, as like especially as like an adult, there's no such thing anymore as dinner and dancing.
Right.
You know, like,
well, I create festivals, so I am probably not the norm, and my passion and love, and I get lit up by bringing people together, seeing them dance and really let loose and enjoy the freedom of movement and music. And that's what lights me up. So it's almost an oxymoron to say, you know, I'm not into that music because it's just not my thing. But if you get out of your head and you just look at it from the perspective of this is energy moving and sharing, and you're just going to let loose with your body, and it's such a freeing feeling. And, you know, Tony World or not, it's just a different way of letting go.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think so I guess to kind of jump ahead a bit, UPW kind of shows you what's possible, and then it kind of forces you to be uncomfortable, and, you know,
right.
And almost kind of gives you a taste of what's possible if you allow yourself. DWD for me,
sure.
Date with Destiny. I actually did a whole recap on it on episode 184 of the podcast. If you guys want to know more about that, go back and listen. Or you guys can watch the documentary, I'm Not Your Guru, on Netflix. But basically,
which is fantastic.
It's really, I really think everyone should watch it. But
right. I actually met one of the ladies that was in that that movie at one of the last events.
Nice.
It's real. It's not staged.
Yeah. Well, even at Date with Destiny, I probably met I want to say like at least 50% of the people who, you know, had the mic or on stage. I ended up either meeting them before or after, sometime during the event. And when I would speak to them, and I realized they're just normal people. You know, they're not paid actors. It wasn't scripted. It really just made it feel. It made my problems feel so small. Right.
I feel that in this realm of the Platinum Partners and in the Tony world, you're amongst peers, and it doesn't matter where you're at in your life. You realize that the person that you think is, you know, a gajillionaire and owns an island and, you know, has a perfect life, you realize they're just like you and me, and they have similar problems. They're there for a reason, and they're looking for something more in their life. They're looking to live more passionately. And what I've found is this group of people that are involved in Tony Robbins, they're our biggest cheerleaders. These are people who are interested in operating at a higher level in life. There's, you know, we're looking to grab the ring every time we go around the carousel, and not only grab the ring, but turn around and hand it to your partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely see that. And I think DWD is one of those places where even if someone went and didn't necessarily went for themselves to look for anything, just having the empathy and being in a room of other people with bigger problems, it automatically makes us feel better. I would say the other main thing I got from it is, even if it didn't completely solve, you know, any of my issues in my life, now I at least understand why they're happening. I understand, you know, why I act the way I do. I understand why other people act the way they do. And it's at least kind of given me some understanding of the world.
Right. And have you noticed that you think differently? There's a different approach to your thought process after being introduced to the Tony world?
Yeah, definitely. I can see things now. Like when people let's say someone's acting a certain way that, normally it would make me angry or I would be annoyed. Now, if anything, sometimes I have empathy for them because I understand, maybe they need, certainty in their life, or they need, they need significance in their life. And I can at least kind of see, okay, like in this situation, it's actually better if I just ignore it. Or in this situation, what they really need is someone to show them some love.
Right. You can determine where they're coming from and meet them where they're at.
Yeah, 100%. So
I'm looking forward to Leadership Date with Destiny. That's coming up for me in December. So
can you explain what that is?
So Date with Destiny in itself is the 4 or 5 day program that you're immersed in, and you're a guest, and you're involved, and you're doing the workbooks, and you're playing full out and going through the exercises, etc. And then there's a couple of days, like 3 or 4 days ahead of time, where you go in and you are a part of the behind the scenes, psychology of how the event works, how Tony does the interventions, teaching you how to read people and assess situations where, someone may be on the brink of suicide. And as a leader and going through leadership, you're kind of the eyes for the crew, and you are a part of the crew, but you're not the volunteer crew. You're kind of at a different level where you've been trained to pay attention to these triggers and to how people may be behaving, to determine if there's some extra love needed, some extra attention needed from the crew, and just making sure that the guests are supported, and that each person, if there is a cry for help, or if there is a need for assistance, that one of the lead trainers can come to their aid and make sure that they can work through it and get them the help that they need.
Yeah.
So you get a behind the scenes viewpoint of the interventions and of the psychology of those and how the event works.
And it's also the first step to becoming one of those, group leaders or a coach.
It's one of the steps. There's leadership with each event, including financial and UPW. There's leadership with every aspect, like wealth, business mastery. You have to go through each one of them in order to become a senior trainer or a senior leader. I am not necessarily taking that path. I didn't choose to do the life and wealth leadership, the Date with Destiny. In fact, my only leadership at an event, but prior to that, in a few weeks, I'll be going to San Diego for the week-long leadership course where Tony is not present, but it teaches you again how to read people and the psychology and how to influence people. So it goes through a lot of those aspects that will help people, at least for me, in life, in business, in sales, in anything. It's really a great skill to connect and influence and read people.
I like it. And I'm glad you're going through that. And actually, so I wanted to ask, so your path was basically, you started with UPW, and then the second one you went to, you said it was a business mastery course?
It was business mastery. So my husband and I went into UPW and we said, we're not signing up for all the things. We're not going to spend money. And guess what? We bought business mastery. So that comes, Master University, which came with the business mastery. At that time, they added that in as an optional event. So Master University covers Life and Wealth and Date with Destiny, and it covered the Business Mastery 1 in Las Vegas. So that was our next event that we went to, which I have to admit my husband got a lot more out of it than I did.
Okay. So what was that event like, and what did he get out of it?
So for us, I went into it because I'm transitioning from residential real estate, to developing a huge project, my big, hairy, audacious goal. Business master, and my husband's a general contractor, and he's a small operation with 2 employees, and he's in the field, and he's very much an operator of the business. So Tony talks a lot about being an owner versus being an operator. And my husband went into it with, I'm not sure I'm going to get anything out of this, and but I'll go. We'll see what happens. This is a lot of money to spend. So Business Mastery essentially goes through how to identify your numbers, how to read your numbers, how to filter through your profit and loss and your balance sheets. And it really gets in depth. And one of the guests is Keith Cunningham. He spends quite a bit of time on stage, and he's just a guru when it comes to finances and numbers and accounting. And he teaches you how to tweak things. Again, the 2 millimeter tweak to affect your bottom line, maybe by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars if you're a bigger company. So not only that, but Tony talks a lot about mindset and being an owner versus an operator and what that looks like. So my husband went into it working 7 days a week and feeling guilty for not being there for our 7-year-old and feeling like he didn't have enough time. It was all about time. And he came out of it. The end result was he not only tweaked his business to specialize in one area that he really is good at and knows his numbers, but he also came out of it saying, I'm going to work 4 days a week and I'm going to spend every Friday with our 7-year-old, pick him up from school and take weekends off.
Wow.
And he did it. And he actually grew his company by about 40%, if not more. His profit margins went up. He's been tweaking ever since. He's been implementing and tweaking and has put himself in the position of an owner. And when he wants to feed his creative need, because he is an artist and through and through, he's definitely not an entrepreneur. His artistry it comes through in his tile work. He does kitchen and bathroom and specializes in bathroom remodels and bathroom design. So he gets his artistic, creative side fulfilled by doing his tile job. So he picks and chooses and does the ones that are harder or more detailed, and he's much happier
so
this way.
Just, I guess, financially, it was pretty expensive to sign up for that course. Can I ask how much it was?
Yeah, it is. It's $99.95 for your first one, and then they usually run specials where if you sign up and you bring someone with you, the extra person is $49.95.
Okay.
So you get it for $15,000. And then Mastery University is, I think it's $15 in itself, and then they have that extra, second person. I think you can get it for $9 or so.
Okay.
Something along those lines. I know we walked away with $30,000.
So it's quite expensive. Well, I guess that was the question. It sounded like just from the changes that he took from it, he already has a positive return on his investment from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, by far. 40 to 50% return increase on his profit margin.
Yeah, and not to mention a lot of the other intangibles, like taking back 3 days a week of his life, having an extra day to spend with his, with your child. Right. Those are they're really priceless.
Absolutely.
But I also can see this is, kind of where a lot of people kind of drop off and they think, $30,000 or, $20,000 or whatever it is, that's insane. And I think if I just thought about it from a very financial, logical, analytical point of view, I would I had looked into what's included, what I would learn. And I'm like, you know what? A lot of the things that he's teaching in, for example, Business Mastery, these are concepts that I can learn in reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad about being, a business owner versus operator. I can learn finance, through this guy. I can take this course, I can read this book. And then it makes people think, okay, this isn't worth it. However, the reason why I like Tony Robbins and I like these events is because there's a lot of, this information has always been out there. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was written 20 years ago, but the fact that people don't go out and read it, they don't go out and learn these things on their own, and they just continue to build their businesses the way they do and work 7 days a week until someone like Tony basically shows you why you should do it and how to do it. As long as someone actually does it, I think that's the most important thing, regardless of what it ends up costing.
Right. Well, and like I said, I walked away with it. I was very frustrated the first couple of days because they do take your existing business and they want you to go through your numbers and they want you to apply the concepts to your existing business. And I really, if you can picture me just standing there with my fist clenched and stomping my feet like a 2-year-old going, but I don't want to apply this to my existing business. I have a startup that I'm really trying to work on here and I need some help with those concepts. So I was really frustrated for the first couple of days, just wrapping my head around what do I apply this to and how do I get the value out of it, knowing that I don't have what I'm really working towards. Even it's a concept right now. I don't even have a business plan formulated. So how do I apply these concepts to that? But what I did learn from it is invaluable. Now I can look back and say, I wouldn't know the things that I know if I hadn't have gone to that. I wouldn't understand the mindset that goes behind being an owner, and not only necessarily that, but the mindset on approaching every aspect of your business. I've had countless conversations with other platinum partners, with other people in the world of Tony Robbins, where I might have walked away crying, but I also thought, what else could this mean? What else could this mean? And I'd come up with a solution because you start applying the thought process and the mindset that Tony teaches you. And it's that 2mm tweak again. And I've almost thought sometimes, he's hypnotizing us. He's getting in our heads. He's giving us the tools and the techniques in a subliminal sort of a way so that you don't even realize it until you're faced with a situation or a scenario where you get through it and think, I wouldn't have had those tools if I hadn't have been exposed to what I've been exposed to for the past year and a half.
Yeah, and I love that. And the reason why I love it so much is not because Tony is somehow this magical person that teaches concepts that nobody else can teach, or there are no books. Exactly. And the fact that, people will go through their whole life not learning these things, even though they're available, cheaper in other places. They're available in books. They can go to the library and read for free. They're available, in other ways. But the fact is, people don't go and do it. And then even if they do read it, the worst thing I think that can happen is someone reads a concept. They don't really take the time to understand it or internalize it or do it. And then they brush it off thinking, okay, I know that. And they move on and continue being unhappy in their life. I think what I really love about Tony is he takes that concept and you move forward until you really understand it and you painfully execute it into your life.
Painfully, yes. Yes. Well, and I think there's also something to, I read the book. Yes, I read the book. That didn't give me the proximity to other people who are going through similar problems or having similar wins or similar losses, and you could model. And that's invaluable.
Yeah, I definitely see that. So is that when did you sign up for a platinum partnership?
At Date with Destiny.
Okay.
In December.
So after Business Mastery, was Date with Destiny the next event?
Yes.
Okay. And what made you sign up for a platinum partnership?
Well, we had upgraded to diamonds during Business Mastery, and so we were sitting one row behind the platinum row, the last platinum row. And so our partners, this was strategic, of course, because I was looking down at the floor and going, I want to be one of those people. How do I do that? Those guys are getting their hands are raised and Tony's talking to them. Tony's fixing their problems and giving them the floor and giving them the opportunity to talk through what they need and applying solutions. I want to be down there. So we had upgraded, and our partners in our group, everything ended up being half platinum. So you have the opportunity to hear the experience of other platinum partners. And I walked away from Business Mastery saying, 2018, my goal is to be platinum partner. And my husband was like, well, okay, that's really a lot of money, and I don't see the value in it. And, he just, fist bump, like, you go, girl, if that's your goal. And, he went off and applied his things. And then we went to Date with Destiny, and during one of the breaks, after they had pitched the platinum partners, I was over standing by the table and just listening, hearing all the questions and answers and kind of wrapping my brain around it and seeing what it would cost, et cetera. And I kind of had an idea already. My husband walked up to me and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just listening. I'm just listening again. I just wanted to hear kind of questions and answers. And he says, he kind of pauses for a minute and he looks at me and he says, you need to do this. And I think my jaw dropped to the floor. because we aren't in a financial position. We don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars lying around and a savings account, businesses that support all of these sorts of things. You know, we're pretty much the middle income average Americans that are doing maybe better than average, where we can do what we want to do and have the lifestyle we want to have. And we don't struggle paycheck to paycheck, but we're not well off by any means. And we just happened to be in a situation where we were doing some real estate transactions and the money was going to be there. And he said, this is how you're going to accomplish your goal. These are the people that you need to be around in order to make this happen. So, and he's standing back going, I support you, baby. This is your goal. I see your vision, but I could not even imagine tackling such a huge monster. So I'm right behind you.
Wow.
That's his way of supporting me.
But I mean, that's amazing.
So,
the fact that he's willing to give up his own spot, because you know, obviously
right.
It sounds like you guys wouldn't be able to, you can barely afford one spot. You can't afford both of you to
right.
go.
We definitely leveraged, and I'm more of the social butterfly and definitely understand the proximity is power and the networking aspect of the group. And I have a tendency to get involved in groups more naturally than he does. So, and quite honestly, he loves being home. He's grounded. He's my grounding rod to my kite string. And I am the butterfly flitting about, ready to conquer the world. And there's only one earth around, that we get to hang out on, and why not see it all? So that's always my opinion. And he's like, I love my home. I love our property. We built our home on where he grew up, on the land his parents built their home on. So he's very much a homebody. And it just works. It works for us.
I love it. And it's great that you guys have that support and that you can be different. I think one of the things I learned in Date with Destiny is that it's okay for the two partners to be different, that not everyone has to be, be exactly the same, with the same roles and the
right.
same personalities. If anything, that ruins relationships, not having that dichotomy.
Right. Right. And I think it is challenging in the platinum partner world if you are traveling and being a part of this journey without your spouse. It gets a little crazy, and it's fun, and it's wild, and you're experiencing new things, and you're growing. And I think it can be hard for the spouse that gets left at home if they're not on the same page.
Mm. So this was an expense. Like, this is expensive, because I think even UPW to a lot of people is expensive. It's it's like $1,000. And then Date with Destiny, people think is insane. When people heard
4,000.
Yeah. When people heard that I paid almost $5,000 to go to a conference, they thought I was insane. And then 15, 20 grand for the Master University, people were like, okay, that's a car. And Platinum Partnership is how much?
It's like a house. They raised the membership for this year, and I've already gotten in. So mine was $75,000.
Oh my God! I think some people are fainting right now hearing that number.
I'm sure. Trust me, it was not an easy transaction, but I did make myself feel a little bit better because I have a miles card, and I did about 4 transactions on my miles card and paid it off over 4 different charges. So at least I was able to get the miles, and it was helped to compensate for the travel. So that was a win.
Yeah.
And then when you pay it off all at once, there's a benefit because they give you a package of business mastery. At least they did that when I signed up. So because my husband and I had already purchased Business Mastery and had already gone through them, I leveraged that package that was given to me and offered it to somebody else at a discount. So I turned around and got the money back from that part of it, sold it for way less than a Business Mastery or than a Master University package goes for on the street. And that was able to further fund my travel and pay back some of that membership fee.
Okay.
And it helped somebody out who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford Master University. And then she went to her first event and signed up for Platinum. So I feel like that was a real win for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I remember hearing that amount when I was at Date with Destiny, and then calculating how much the travel cost would be or the additional events would be. And I think it ended up being, I think it was like, I want to say like $130,000 or something if I went to all the events.
Yes, I think that's about what it is. And it's kind of crazy because I look at my taxes and I look at my income and I look at what I've spent on all of this, and I pretty much am working just to pay for this.
And okay, so I want to just like, I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are thinking, you know, we're both insane, that this is a cult, this is a scam, this is a, you know, this is, you know, they're taking the negatives. So the reason why I know for sure this isn't some hard sell, you know, pyramid scheme or MLM is ever since I signed up for Date with Destiny and I, you know, and I opened my, you know, I paid, you know, $4,500 for it. They've never bothered, like they've never once emailed or called me to try to upsell me again. They had offered me all these different packages at the event. I'm aware of them, but it's not like hard sell afterwards. And I think that if it really was some kind of, you know, cult or pyramid scheme or, you know, like, you know, even a scam, you would have people following up, you know, weekly to try to get you to keep going. But it's almost kind of like he will offer you these things. He'll, you know, show you the value of it. And then he'll be like, okay, take it or leave it. Like it's up to you.
Right. Because that's life. I mean, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. Why should you try to pull the horse to the water to drink if the horse isn't thirsty, you know, and that's, I don't know, it took my daughter quite a while to go to UPW and my husband was hesitant. And, you know, I think everyone has that trepidation initially, like, what am I getting myself into? Yeah. And like I said, we went into it saying, we're not spending another dime. We've done this before. We've been to these seminars and we know they're going to upsell us. Well, yep, we drank the Kool-Aid. We spent the money. We signed up for everything. And now I'm all in. And I can't imagine. It almost hurts my heart to think that my platinum year is ending in February. It's like, oh my gosh, almost here. I'm almost halfway through. What am I going to do?
Oh, well, I mean, the goal would be to be able to make enough, you know, money from everything that you've learned, all the connections you made this year, to be able to easily, you know, have it pay for itself again the next year. And, yes, you know,
absolutely. And that's the goal. And I've learned tools and techniques through Business Mastery and Business Mastery 2. Just the concepts we've been introduced to, it's right there. All you have to do is execute. I know that there are ways to even make passive income without lifting a finger because I've been introduced to these concepts, and I have the peer group and resources where if I got to the time where I wasn't doing real estate and doing festivals and developing a project where I had a moment, and that's coming because I've learned I can hire a virtual assistant and I can hand all of these tasks over and they can make it happen. And then I have passive income, and that passive income can pay for the patent partnership. And then all the other things that I do are totally separate.
So, the listeners of this podcast are mostly, you know, either people who are already entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurs. And a lot of them might be thinking, like, Johnny, these are things that, you know, we've learned, you know, on your podcast, you know, for free already. Or these are things that, you know, I've taken a course for a fraction of the price to learn. Or, you know, we have a conference called the Nomad Summit, which is like a $300 version of Business Mastery, really designed for digital nomads. And, you know, and the thing is, honestly, I think if someone's just going to compare, you know, I guess, you know, like financial to financially and say, like, you know, like, please, you know, like write down 20 things you learned and then we'll write down 20 things and then we'll compare how much it costs. It seems like it's such a ridiculous amount of money to pay. And to be honest, I don't think logically we can ever justify how much it costs. And that's, you know, true. And like with my logical brain, I just can't get myself to do it. However, I know that if I just forked over that money, I would probably end up, you know, not only getting that money back, but either developing relationships or skills, that I probably wouldn't have otherwise done. Even if I had learned it or I already knew it, the fact that I spend $100,000 to do it, it would force me to actually just do the things I knew that I know I should do anyways, and be surrounded by other people that same mindset. And I think that really is priceless.
Right. It's burning the boats. It's taking that leap of faith and saying, I'm in, and no matter what, I'm going to make it work. And I remember, years ago, I was a financial rep prior to being in real estate, and I remember hearing the only way to be successful in a sales job is to get off payroll and get on commission. So you have to take that risk and say, I'm going to put my effort in, and where energy flows, so where your focus goes, energy flows, right? So you put your focus on something and your energy is going that direction, and it's going to come back. It's the basic concept of The Secret or the law of attraction or any of those things that are, you can read them and digest them from one place or another, but that's what Tony's teaching. You put your effort out there and it's going to come back to you.
Yeah, and honestly, I struggled until even today. Having my logical brain stop me from doing things that I know I should do. I'm in a very good position where I know I could do it. I know I would get the benefit from it. And it's and the reason why I'm even sharing this is I think everyone listening right now, there's going to be some people that are like, nope, sign me up. I understand. Let's do it. But I think a big majority of people don't even want to, they wouldn't even want to spend $1,000 to go to UPW or the $5,000 to go to DWD. And
right.
What would your advice to those people be?
That's challenging because, I have people in my life who are completely resistant to it, but they don't need changing. Those words came out of the mouth, and I said, that's exactly why you need to go. So, if someone's in their head saying, I'm perfect just the way I am, there's nobody that's perfect. We all are working on ourselves, working on something. There's always something to improve. And I would venture to say that if you asked every single person that walked out of a UPW, did you get one thing out of this that can tweak, not change your life forever? I mean, they say life will never be the same, but it's what you do with it. And if you walk away with one little gem, one little tool to put in your toolbox, it's going to make a difference in your life or someone else's. And that, to me, is worth $1,000. And, yes, $100,000 or more is such a hard pill to swallow, but I faced this, 3 weeks ago now, when I was faced with the Are You Going to the Platinum Adventure Trip, which is where my post that we originally started out with, that's where it came from. It came from spending a week in the south of France with the Platinum Partners and on this amazing adventure trip. And I literally was sitting on the plane coming back from Business Mastery 2, and I was getting messages from other Platinum partners and multi-year Platinums that had that we had met in the airport or we had met somewhere along the way, and it's, hey, am I going to see you in France? No, you're not going to see me in France. Why? Well, money. It's expensive. Okay, that's a bullshit story. What else? Well, I'm going to be divorced if I end up going to France. My husband is not going to be happy if I'm traveling that far and I'm experiencing all these amazing things and going without him. I'm sure I would come back and it would be over. Yeah, that's bullshit too. That's a bullshit story. You're in your head. So what else? And I went through this process with about half a dozen of my peers. And finally it was, what is it going to cost you not to go? And I thought about that. And my whole reason for joining Platinum Partners is to accomplish my mission and my purpose of developing this property to bring our community together and bring live music to our community, something that we don't have. And I thought about that. What's it going to cost you if you don't go? And so I took the leap, and I went, and I spent the money, and I put it on a credit card, and I'm digging myself out of it right now because I don't want to take it out of savings and pay for it. And I met several people, I can say several, that said, I want your prospectus, I want your offering as soon as you get it done. And that's being finalized this week. So I'll be sending that off to my peers who are potential investors in my big, hairy, audacious goal.
Wow.
What would it cost me if I didn't go?
And, the thing is, it's this life is so crazy, and I really think that, if nothing else, just the networking that people get from it. And it's not networking as in, going to some kind of other networking event. This is networking.
No, it's raw.
Yeah. And the thing is, just the fact that other people have been through these events that they're willing to put the money up for it. They're willing to kind of break down all the barriers and the rules and go, and really dig deep to be able to attend these things. It's a whole new set of people that you would normally meet at, let's say you went to meetup.com and went to some free local networking event. The people there are completely different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, like I said, they're raw, and, we would be sitting at lunch, and the person next to me who I hadn't met, and there's 250 people there, and you constantly are meeting people every day, new people that's like, hey, where did you come from? Because you kind of travel in circles of people that are familiar to you, and then you gather up more friends and more peers that you haven't met before. But you'll be sitting next to somebody, and you're not talking about business. You might talk about business, but you're talking about, what drives you, what's your passion, why are you here, what's the biggest thing you've gotten out of your journey with Tony Robbins. And, we're on this fun adventure trip where you're getting out of your head and embracing uncertainty, because literally you don't even know where you're going or what you're doing when you go on these trips. They don't even tell you what's packed. And, I'm sitting next to someone who I just met that moment, and within 10 minutes, I'm in tears. And I'm not a crier. I've mentioned that I've been in tears a couple times and I'm getting emotional, but I am like the superwoman. I am woman of steel, I'm telling you. And I don't get emotional like that, but within 10 minutes, he has me crying over, why can't I just tell my daughter that I love her and give her unconditional love and give her a hug and tell her how amazing she is? And you go deep.
Yeah. Whoa. So, it's the reason why I wanted to really do this episode, even though I honestly think the majority of my listeners are maybe didn't even get this far, because they're like, Johnny, you're not talking about, I guess we are talking about traveling, but we're not talking about, the travel that I normally talk about on the podcast. Or we're not talking about.
We can talk about the travel.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, I do want to talk about the travel, because it sounds like it's been really fun. But I think that, like this podcast is mostly for people who are bootstrapping a business, who want to be a digital nomad or an entrepreneur and, move to a cheap place like Thailand to kind of start everything. And in Thailand, we have, so many like free networking events every Friday. Like I host one called the Coffee Club. But the thing is, even though I meet a lot of great friends there and meet a lot of great people there, the chances of me meeting someone who is like really serious about starting a big business or growing a really big business is pretty slim, to be honest, because it's a free event. It's just people, there's not really an investment from their side. And, they're like, yeah, I just want to come check it out. Let's have fun, meet people.
Right.
And then even just I was going to say, even just the next level up, we have a paid event every year. That's not even that expensive. I think, it's crazy to me when people say it's expensive, because it's $300 and it actually includes food, which compared to like Date with Destiny is like a tenth of the price. And, but just the fact that someone's willing to spend $300 to go to an event, the networking there, the people I meet, they're just on a completely different level. Every single person there is serious. They either already have a business or they're serious about growing it. And then I've been to events that, like private events where I've spent like $3,000 or plus to go to. And there, like the level of seriousness is even higher. I really believe that even though it's sad that it's this way, it's just the way life works. Is the more you invest into something in general, the kind of higher, like the higher caliber of other people that you meet.
Right. Well, and you're investing in yourself too. I think the biggest difference with the Tony Robbins events and the conversations that you have and the networking is that you're very quickly going to drill down to who you are and what your purpose is. And when you're talking, this actually happened. This is the conversation that left me in tears at Business Mastery 2. I walked up to one of my peers and was going to ask a question, very technical, tactical question about how to execute something in my business plan. And instead of hearing my question, it went back to, Jen, what am I? We've had this conversation before. Am I an artist? Am I an entrepreneur? Am I a leader manager? And I'm kind of taken aback and you're an entrepreneur, right? So I need to see the numbers. Your great idea and your concept and your passion in what you're doing is all fantastic, and you're going to get far with that. But I need to see the meat and potatoes, because that's where I'm coming from. So come back to me with a different question. And I walked away just defeated, and that was where I, what else is me, what else is mean? And I learned that I need to reframe my questions and reframe what I'm asking. So I used my tools, he used his, but you very quickly cut through the bullshit. And it's not, oh, hey, nice to meet you, and maybe we like each other, maybe we don't. It's, hey, I'm here, I know who I am. Who are you? Are we a good match? And how can I help you?
Yeah. I definitely see that. And I think just the fact that people have been through the other parts of it that aren't the business sides of it. I mean, I like that the fact that by the time someone's been to the business events, they've probably at least been through UPW, if not DW, like Date with Destiny as well.
Right. And those conversations go, what are your values that drive you? It comes back to those questions when someone's been with Date with Destiny, and that's really what they are, they're working on. Typically, they're working on themselves and what drives them and what are their values and their top needs, of the 6 human needs. What are your top needs? And that's where those conversations go very quickly.
I love it. So real quick, where have you traveled with the Platinum Partnership?
Oh, well, this is coming from, remember, a small town girl in Northern California who hasn't traveled much. I've been, several places I could say with my husband, Belize and British Virgin Islands are probably the most exciting places I've been that are kind of interesting and unique. And I've been to Bali on a yoga meditation trip a few years ago. And since then, I've been to all the U.S. Locations with the events, or most of them. And then most recently with Business Mastery 2, it was in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And then the adventure trip was in the south of France, which I have never been to Europe before this last month, and I've been twice the last month and a half. So I literally spent, from June 1st to the 24th, I was gone and traveling by myself without my husband, without my 7-year-old. My daughter met me for a brief period in between and did some traveling on her own. And then, like I said, I was on the plane, came back, had no intention of going back to France or Europe. And within 2 weeks, I was on my way back. And we went to Cannes and Monte Carlo and into Monaco. And it was, I could never imagine putting together, until now, putting together a trip like that and having the experiences that we had. I didn't even know that there were options. And Tony does not disappoint, let me tell you. There are people who are extremely well-traveled amongst the peer group, and they were blown away. And the one thing that I can, say without a doubt that was just amazing and phenomenal is he got every one of us on $250,000 speedboats in the French Riviera, and had us coordinated, had all of the people that were driving the boats coordinate all 30 speedboats to be in a line going at the same time, traveling from Cannes to Monaco. We thought we were taking a 30-minute water taxi. So we had no idea what we were doing. We were told, just pack your things. All of our things were going on a bus, and dress casually, no bathing suits, get on a boat, and we're taking you to Monaco. And we had no clue. And little did we know, after we're in the boats for about an hour, and the boats are speeding up, and they're all of a sudden you see all the other boats that are coming with you, and you're like, wait a minute, this is all of us. And this is the people are turning heads, and the yachts and the other speedboats, everyone's going, what the hell is going on? And then a helicopter comes down, and the helicopter has a video crew in it and photographers, and they get within 10 feet of the boat while we're all going about 70 miles an hour, and we're essentially racing from Cannes to Monaco with a helicopter trailing us like 007, getting it all on footage. And we're imagining Tony sitting back wherever he is in the world, watching this on a live stream going, these fuckers thought they were taking a taxi ride, and look what I got him doing. And every single one of us were just in awe. Like, this is a life we cannot even imagine. And we were so in the moment. Looking back, I can tell you that I wasn't thinking about anything else in the world except for what was going on right then.
That's amazing.
And it's not very often that you can say that.
That's so amazing. I mean, like, it honestly really sounds like a lot of these things are priceless. I mean,
it is priceless. I mean, we went to the yacht club in Monte Carlo, where it's closed. It's only for private membership, and it was open for us with a dinner and dancing and live bands, and so we got to hang out at the Monte Carlo Yacht Club. You know, it's like, you don't get to do that.
I love it. I mean, it's expensive, but it's worth it, and it could potentially be priceless. And I would say that's probably the best way to sum it up. You know, I would say everyone listening to this, they need to go to at least Date with Destiny. If not, you know, start with UPW. Start with Unleash the Power Within.
At least UPW.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's kind of the taster. And then if just allow yourself, I would say if nothing else, at UPW, whether you hate the music, it's not for you, you feel awkward, just allow yourself to experience it, play full out, and just say, okay, if I do everything that this crazy guy tells me to do, how will I feel at the end of it? And if you feel
what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. You know, and if you feel significantly better and you're like, okay, I can see there's something in this, sign up for Date with Destiny. It's, you know, it's not cheap either. It's $5,000. But I guarantee that if everyone in the world went to a DWD event, the world would be a better place. I really, truly believe that.
Agree.
And
I totally agree, honey.
Yeah. And from there, you know, if you drink the Kool-Aid, it's up to you. I can't, you know, I'm not your financial advisor, so I can't tell anyone, you know, whether to do it or not. I mean, I do firmly believe that traveling, networking, building your business is key, and everybody should focus on that, whether it's through Tony Robbins or, you know, or not, you know, keep listening to this podcast. We have different guests every week that have different ways, but anyone who does it, I understand. And I'm like, I can personally fork out 130 grand for this, but I can see why you did it, and I understand.
Yeah, so like I said, it has been priceless, and you said that as well. I don't have a moment of looking back or regret. I feel like money is energy, and you just create more. So you just, you know, got to go out and do the work, and it'll come back. Smartest decision I've ever made. I
actually have a feeling that the next time we speak, I would love to follow up in a year or two. I have a feeling that from this experience, from something you took away from it, from a connection you made, from something, you're gonna look back, but like, oh yeah, that was, you know, easiest return on investment of my life. So I look forward to that.
Me too.
Very cool. So if people want to reach out to you, do you hang out, you know, online anywhere, Twitter, Instagram, anything? Blog?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. My production company for live music is Taiwan On Productions. It's TEIE. And we have an upcoming festival in September in Northern California that you can find there. And it's Jennifer Teie. If you're ever looking for real estate in El Dorado County or the surrounding areas, in fact, across the U.S., because I have the network where I can introduce you to anyone all over the world, really, for real estate. So, yes, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Very cool. So it's TEIE 1 On Productions. N-E. Yep, spelled out. Okay, really cool. And what dates are your September music festival? September 28th through October 1st, and you can find information on that at jepfest.com. So JEP Fest. It's the Just Exactly Perfect Festival. Oh, that's awesome. There's history behind that if we had time, but. And actually, the timing is perfect because the next Nomad Summit Conference is in Las Vegas over Labor Day weekend, which is September 1st through the 3rd. So if anybody wanted to come out to that and get a taste of kind of the digital nomad entrepreneur life, you can go to that. And then from there, you can spend a week in Vegas and fly over to Northern California. And at the end of the month, you'll have the Just Exactly Perfect Festival. Sounds perfect. Just exactly perfect. I love it. All right. Really, really, really great talking to you. I really appreciate you taking the time to share. And I love the fact that we're able to get kind of like an inside peek on what these events are like, because if nothing else,
the fact that someone can hear from someone who's actually gone through it, who's actually forked over the money, it doesn't seem like this, secret veil of what happens. I think to us, it's super valuable. So I appreciate your time.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, Jen. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.